We'll get into GMO. Its effects, what it does to the body, who authorized it, who's behind it, the stock owners in it, as well as also how you can counter it. So that's the most important part, is to give you a solution, not just to take the problems. All right, so, all right, let's get into Professor Hilton Hotima. It's from his book, The Magic Temple. Right? It's his book called The Magic Temple by Hilton Hotima. This is what he says. He says, when man began the unnatural practice of eating and drinking, he introduced into his body foreign matter that had no place there. So really, us eating and drinking from the way that we used to be, which was more ethereal, or ethereal in nature, which means it was more of a light being at one time. Now, it's been forced to condense into this physical body or into this element, and it's taking them on to such a condensed state. We now have to acquire secondary means of nutrition. Because at one time, all we needed was a primary source, which was the sun. That was it. Our breath and the sun produce what is called prana or chi or ki energy. And at one time, that's what we needed to fuel our body. Now, based on us falling to such a dense state, we now have to take on secondary things such as water, which we actually breathe for water now, right? Showing that we're more aquatic beings than we are a solid being, all right? So that means you really have more of a connection to the fourth dimension than you really do towards the third dimension. Right? But scientists try to tell you that you are a third-dimensional being, right? Because it's based on length, width, and height. All right? Now you have to add depth into the scenario, right? So when you add depth into it, that produces the fourth dimension. That's actually what you want. You're actually a fourth-dimensional being. All right? So we are now in a time where we are changing. We're transforming from Homo sapiens sapiens. And because of that, that becomes a threat to those who are just Homo sapiens. All right? Which is, of course, the algorithm. All right? However, you are Homo sapiens sapiens. And you're supposed to be making a transition to becoming a Homo Christos, which means to be like Christ. In other words, the true title or the true meaning of the name of Christian, which means to be like Christ. All right, that's what you're supposed to be becoming, all right, or come into. All right, the GMO food is a way in order to block that from occurring, to block that from happening. That's what's really going on. And he goes on and says, this forced the body into a defensive state, causing it to battle against the foreign matter and to develop internal adjustments. In other words, you had to adapt to eating food. All right? Now, if this is hard to believe or understand, go and check the Marababa, which is the Marababata, which is actually on the Iskandar, which is coming from the Vedic text from out of India. They speak of sun bathing or star bathing, all right, in which that you are able to absorb enough prana through the eyes in order to fuel and to electrify your cells. All right, and you can actually go for months, even years, without eating. Right? So this is nothing new. This is already written in the scriptures, and we go through some of them as we continue on. And he says that this was the beginning of the physical degeneration, which reduced the lifespan from 1,000 years to what it is today. All right, so when you read about Methuselah being 969 years old, that was because his body was more etheric than it was physical. Now, for those who don't know and understand this physical structure and the various bodies that intend, or that is, I guess you could say, that is like an overtone of cunning, or is an body, you have the etheric body, you have the astral body, which is the emotional body, the mental body, the causal body, the spiritual body, and the soul body. These are the 7 bodies in which that you have. You are multi-dimensional being. You're not just a physical body. All right? You get caught up into just the physical. But you have a soul, which have, when you went to church or when you go to church on Sunday, you hear the preacher speak about a thing will save your soul. In order to save your soul from what? Well, they tell you that to save your soul from hell, or to save your soul from hell so that you can go to heaven, right? That is what, but they never tell you what the soul is. They never tell you what the soul is located at. So obviously they don't know what the soul is. Know where it's located. So how can you save it? All right. First, let's get those 2 questions out the way. Then we can get on with the rest of the lesson. For the second point. All right. I mean, that's just what it is for me. All right. So what we come to find out is that the word soul is taken from the word soul, which means fire. Latin word. Now, what is the more ancient word for soul? Well, within Hebrew, it's ruach. And ruach means the soul, or wind, air. Your breath is your soul. Your breath rides along, when your soul rides on your breath. It's actually one and the same person. But there's a place in which that your breath embedded itself inside of, and that is inside of what's called the pineal gland. That is the home or the abode of the soul. All right, now you have the extension of the soul, which is called the spirit, or the Holy Spirit, which is here at the base of your spine, in which that is sits right above the practically behind, which is called the sacral bone. That is the abode of the Holy Spirit, or what is referred to as your kundalini. Do something to your fight. All right, and I'm saying all this because this is dealing with how to battle against and go beyond the GMO confusion in which that is taking place. All right, so what are some of the firms of GMO? Who's producing this? Well, we know that the number 1 corporation is Monsanto. Monsanto is number 1. All right, they have the terminator seed. All right, that means that when farmers go and get the seeds from Monsanto, those seeds will only produce for that 3 months. That's the end of the crop after the 3 months. That means you have to go back to them for the next 3 months and for the next 3 months. So you began planting in March. By now, end of May, beginning of June, should be the harvest of your first crops that you planted in March, right? Well, guess what? Now you have to go back to Monsanto. When that crop is over, that's what happens with the terminator seed. All right? So this is why they're trying to dominate the seed industry. Now, of course, you don't have to go to Monsanto. You have to go and get online and type into it and just search heirloom seeds. Heirloom seeds. HEIRLOOM. Heirloom seeds. All right? These seeds are organic. These seeds come back. Matter of fact, you can plant a tomato plant. They'll come back that first 3 months, that second 3 months, that third 3 months, and you got tomatoes. All right, until it comes winter time, and they die. Everybody understand what I mean by terminator seeds versus heirloom seeds? Heirloom. HEIRLOOM. Heirloom seeds. All right? And there's local organic farmers in every area, right? Particularly in the South. Just look up black farmers who uses organic material. Right? This means that they don't use fertilizer coming from pigs or from any other animal. Right? It's done organically. So check that out. So it says the GM, which is what we call genetically modified firms, present themselves as operating out of a futuristic laboratory and a high-tech greenhouse in order to provide farmers with innovative crops with valuable new traits But in reality, all these leading GM firms develop out of the chemical industry, and they remain the world's biggest manufacturer of chemicals. And the leading GMO corporation together controls nearly 75% of global pesticides market. 75%. All right? Now, Syngenta, for instance, is not only the world's third largest seed company, it is also the world's second largest chemical manufacturer. Monsanto is the world's biggest seed company. It is the world's fifth largest chemical company. This is why around 80% of GM seeds have been engineered to be resistant to weed killers or herbicides. Monsanto's main GM product is crop resistance. All right? These crops are actually resistant. They're called Roundup. This is what that's the ingredient in it. It's called Roundup. You don't even know what the hell Roundup is. All right? We don't know what that is. All right? It's just something that they call Roundup. And which was created to monopolize. All right? That's what they have done. So Monsanto Roundup herbicides now has a patent to it. So, I mean, you can't make anything like it. All right? Otherwise, they'll sue you. All right? So, we know also that Bayer has a history. This is their aspirin. Has a history. All right? Of course, it's one of the giant pharmaceutical corporations, but it also has a record of corporate crimes, as we know, but it's also a key player in the development of commercialized GM crops. All right, so Bayer has tied on to Syngenta as well as also Monsanto. All right, so this is what's going on. They're trying to monopolize the crops, which is your food production. All right. Now, who is Monsanto? Well, Monsanto was a family, a Jewish family, right? Jews. Around the early 1900s is when Monsanto, the company, begins to come forth. All right? It goes on and says, here's some interesting Monsanto history. The Jewish Monsanto family of Louisiana included Benjamin, Isaac, Manuel, Eleanor, Gracia, and Jacob. They made frequent purchases of blacks, all right, so-called blacks. It says including 12 in 1785, 13, and then 31 in 1787, and 80 in 1768. And in 1794, Benjamin sold Babette, a black woman, to Francois Cordell. It says the manual sold two blacks from the Guinea, which is Africa, named Polydor and Lucy, to James Sanders for $850 in silver. In other words, they were slave owners. So you can see the idea of controlling crops is not just from mentality of just wanting to have money. It comes to them having to have control, not just over. Now they don't have control over the people. They have control over the crops, which gives them control over what? Over people again. So they already had the propensity to enslave, to be slavers. All right, this is their history. All right, so it goes on. It says that Gracia bequeathed 9 Africans to her relatives in 1790 through a will. And Eleanor also held so-called blacks as slaves. Manuel Jacob Monsanto entered into at least 12 contracts for sale of slaves between 1787 and 1789. So how did they make their money to come about? Off of slavery. Well, do you know that a person by the name of Johnny Cotton was going to sue Monsanto and Aetna, the insurance company, and RBX Railroad Company, as well as also Brown University, Yale University, Harvard University, for reparations, and the Lehman Brothers. who was the underwriter for the prison system, who was also sit on the board of the Federal Reserve Bank. Exactly. Come on, now you better get rid of something here. Dang. All of a sudden, Johnny dies of a brain hemorrhage. Dr. Connor dies of a brain hemorrhage. Bobby Ray dies of a brain hemorrhage. Even Wilson dies of a brain hemorrhage. Sounds like a little epidemic going on here in the black community. Oh, so-called black community. Interesting. All right, so Johnny was going to sue Monsanto, world's largest seed corporation, and he mysteriously dies. Okay. They made their money off of slavery, and they used that money to be parlayed into now controlling the seed market. So they control our seeds and now transform those from physical seeds into plant seeds. Yes.
Johnny Carter.
Yes, Johnny Carter. Yes. In other words, he died of a brain stroke, in which that he didn't recover from, just died. They have no reason when they acquired it, or the problems behind it, or issues. He never had none of those issues prior to when he went to the doctor. So that's the reason why we say it seriously, because he never had those issues before. He never had any problems of pains or migraines. And normally, that's the first thing in which that happens when you have, when you is on the verge of a stroke or on a, brain conditions, when you begin to have the migraines or headaches, in which that is unexplainable. Especially if you was a person that never had them. He's going on to the company who's going to sue for reparations. But they were slavers, and this is how they made their money. All right? This is just one of the companies. Like I said, an insurance company. All right? Wachovia, and this is how Wachovia transformed to Wells Fargo. But it was part of it. Bank of America was part of it. Brown University, Yale University, Harvard University, the railroad company. They was all part of the slave trade. This is how they made their money, and they still operate today all of the money that they made from slavery. So they all was part of the same scenario, and Johnny Cochran was going to sue them. All right, so this is just us tapping into, what's going on. So Monsanto, the Jewish family owned slaves, and of course, you need a book, Rex Franklin, I was talking about the Nation of Islam, the relationship between blacks and Jews. So get that book, and actually goes into a little bit more detail about this. I'm pretty sure Johnny Cochran used that book in order to come to conclusions and also to put together that lawsuit, which, by the way, was billions and billions and billions of dollars. Matter of fact, he brought onto his team some of the top lawyers, so-called black lawyers in the nation, in the country. And he brought them on, in order to go and sue these companies on behalf of us for reparations. And then he mysteriously dies a matter of months later. All right? And if you notice, it stopped. And you heard of it again? If he passed, when did he pass? I think it was around, 2008? 2007? It was around that time, wasn't it? Right. Is that long? 2001? It was almost 14 years ago. You haven't heard nothing else since, huh? That's amazing. And these other lawyers was there, so why didn't they carry on? No, because they understood that, okay, we better. You got it. That's why what our living or said diet consists of mainly genetic altered food, also called genetically modified organisms. The word organism, as after to it, in school, meant something living. That's what an organism was. An organism is something that is living. Now, so genetically altered food or genetically modified organisms. So that means there's an organism that is now entering into your body to reinsert a new pattern or new gene signal into your DNA. That's what's going on. They're trying to insert a new signal into your DNA, a new frequency, a new code into your DNA to disrupt what? What is it trying to disrupt? Is it just to try to make us an obese nation? To put us, to put us into the doctor's office that we have to go, all of a sudden we got liver problems, heart problems, kidney problems, blah, blah, blah. Is that just it? Let's find out. All right, so it says, with the government of the world, be it the food corporation, science field, medical industry such as the Rockefellers, Monsanto's true purpose, because that's who was behind Monsanto, now is the Rockefellers. Outside of obviously controlling the food supply, we have to come to the conclusion that we're talking about something much more sinister. Now I'll get into what that is a little bit later on. But Edgar Monsanto Cooney is the president of $61 million of Monsanto's Chemical Corporation, which his father founded in 1901 on the original investment of $5,000. Monsanto was one of the handful of companies that produced Agent Orange. I'm sure plenty of us heard about that during the 70s, during the Vietnam War. And his main poison, dioxin, all right, it sold DDT and PCBs and the controversial dairy cow hormone, RBGH. Of course, all of which is cancer-related. And then, of course, you have the cancer-related aspartame, which they also produce, which is an artificial sweetener. So starting in the 1980s, however, Monsanto shuttered its chemical and plastic division and brought up seed companies, invested in biogenetic research, and ultimately reincorporated itself as an agricultural company. Its first GMO product, that patent, all right, was called glyphosate. It says resistant, which I told you was called Roundup Ready, which was a soybean, was approved by the USDA in 1994. But most Americans haven't even heard of Monsanto until they had a problem with trying to sell the seeds to Europe. All right, and Europe denied the seeds to come in. They denied that. All right, and so Monsanto is the family name of President Cooney's mother. But Monsanto's chemical is not a tightly owned family business. All right, and what we mean by that is that let's see who sits on, who's the major shareholders and own stock. You have the funds, institutions such as Vanguard, Total Stock Market, Vanguard, Prime Cap Investment Group, VA College America, Vanguard Institution, Mainstay, Large Cap, Harbor Capital Appreciation Institution, VA College American Investment Corporation, Vanguard Dividends Appreciation, ETF, Vanguard Growth Index Investment, Oakmark One, VA College American New Perspective, Vanguard Capital Opportunities Investment, Fidelity Spartan 5,000 Index Investment, Material Select Sector, EFT, 500 Index Strategy, America Fund, Growth Income, 2, Fidelity Growth Company, VA College America Mutual. Now, if you didn't notice, most of it is VA College as well as also Vanguard. These are two companies in which that is affiliated with the Rockefellers. Right? Let's see who else is part of this. Bill Gates has over 500,000 shares, all right, which is net worth about $23 million of Monsanto stock, all right, and he was asked about it, and he avoided a question and went on to something else. But it should also went into the fact of not just asking about that, but he also is the one behind the eugenics program in which that is dealing with the vaccination. Now, if you think that he got 500,000 shares in Monsanto, which is dealing with GMO products, what do you think is inside of the vaccine? Well, let's ask Joseph McCullough. He's an MD. All right, Joseph McCullough. All right, MERCOLA, McCullough. Joseph McCullough. This is what he says that's inside the vaccine. 3 billion of children. All right, in other words, snot, urine, defecation of children, duck blood, monkey duck blood. This is what the vaccine is the dates for vaccine. Vacuum, cleaning, sweeping, and that's for those who have allergies. They believe by putting sweepings for vacuum cleaners into your blood that you develop an antibody against it, and therefore you won't have what? Yeah, you won't have that right there. You won't have a cold or sneeze or allergy. This is their belief system. All right? Formaldehyde, which is what? Embalming fluid is inside, which is a preservative. Well, that's used for dead people. Well, I see those here every day. So that's inside the vaccine. And I say that he's talking about at least 12 vaccines shot up into a child within just a week's time inside of the hospital. Right? So this is more than just vitamin K shot. Right? So Bill Gates is one of the individuals behind the vaccination program. All right? Now, of course, all you have to do in order to bypass that is get online in your state, pull up vaccine exemption form. That's what you have to do, is pull up a vaccine exemption form. They'll let you be exempt from vaccination for yourself, also for the children in school, that's from kindergarten or nursery school or up to college. Only thing you have to do is simply show them the form. The form is used for political reasons, cultural reasons, and religious reasons. Either of the three can get you exempt. All you have to do is get it notarized and show it to them. Say, I don't believe that. There you go. All right, so that's all you have to do. All right? Some states are attempting to make it mandatory to have vaccination, but they can't. Because you can't force anyone to inject anything into their bodies or your children's bodies without your consent. All right? This is all about consenting to. Right? So, Bill Gates is behind the eugenics program, which also goes into abortion, which is the largest problem amongst us. That's the number one. It's not the police brutality. All right? Right now, in according to that, we see what's going on with that. Not to put that to the side, but number one is the abortion rate. Right? That's number one. I think it's like almost between 650,000 to almost 1 million abortions a year. So I mean that's devastating. So people, okay, that's devastating. So that's what is going on. So the ones behind it, you have Bill Gates, his wife, George Soros. You have the Rockefellers, and we have the David Rockefellers, all right? So you have these individuals here within the Americas that is attempting to depopulate, and this is all part of their depopulation program, along now with the agenda of the homosexual thing and the gay marriage. All that is part of that same scenario, all right? That's all part of the same scenario. Not to have children. So they love the, 650,000 to a million abortion. That's beautiful to them. They love, the homosexuality. They love all these things because we are the main and the largest group of people on the face of the planet. All right? It's not the Chinese. There's 2 billion of them, but there's 3 billion of us. Almost 4 billion, all right, of us. All right? So we almost double their population. As well as there's only but there's only 600 million Europeans on the planet. That's it. Be 18 to 1 to them. That's it. That's all there is to them. And guess what? In 2012, they did the census on their birth rate, and now there's more of them dying than reproduction. All right? This is a known thing that by 2050, this is told to me by my biology teacher in college. He said by 2045 to 2050, they will even be here. So right now, we're doing a whole lot of hooping and hollering about the white man, but you ain't got to worry about doing that. He's doing it, that's the natural. That's why he's trying to get you gay. And he's trying to resort to artificial insemination, cloning, cryogenics, all these different other scientific things to keep them alive longer. All right? Oh, yeah, man, women, and right. Well, that was all part of the mind control. And see, the mind control is now switched because now you see everybody get Jesus in the finger. White Jesus, go on Facebook, and you want to see so many people give white Jesus the little finger to it's just like, yeah, man, yeah, that's everybody got it. They got it. You know what I'm saying? So nobody is falling for that trick anymore. I never fell for it. I was 5 years old sitting in church. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Black preacher. Black choir. Black missionary boy. Black superintendent. Black secretary. Black deacon boy. Black congregation. Black ushers. Hold up. Now, at 5, I'm telling y'all, I was a master in Sesame Street. I was a master at 5. So I've been watching this 3 years. That's 2. And the song was, one of these things just doesn't belong here. One of these things just doesn't belong. So they give you 3 apples and then they throw orange up in there. Oh, then I get away. Same thing. I knew it. Something was wrong. Okay, so it didn't take me long to figure that out. All right, so we find that the Gates Foundation supported non-GMO beta-carotene-rich sweet potato, all right, in Africa. Now, Harvest Plus has also received a $6 billion grant from Bill and Melinda Gates to the foundation to introduce a nutritionally improved staple food, orange fresh sweet potato, into the diet of the undernutrition in East Africa. Okay. So, this is what happened is that in Zambia, there was a severe drought in Zambia, all right? And a report from the Inner Press Services noted that production changed dramatically after President El-Bey took over from Frederick Chalupa in 2001, all right? Because Chalupa promoted GMO food in the country in Zambia. The new president said, nah, you only coming up in with that mess. And so what happened is that he rejected GM corn and encouraged the growth of non-GM corn, resulting in a bumper harvest for the 3 years consecutively. All right, so when the Zambian government rejected GM corn in 2002, there was a call from the United GMO for the leaders be tried for highest crimes against humanity in the highest court of the world. Now, they're the last ones to have to do that, because right now everybody around the world is saying the same thing about the United States, and it's not even talking about the GMO food. It's talking about the damn abuse that they're doing against us, or these damn police killings. All right, and of course the crazy little white boy here in this state, you know what I'm saying, that took the 9 churchgoers. So right here it says the color game has become shorthanded for a corporate villain, just like Standard Oil was a century ago. And it says now that these rumors persist that Blackwater, which was a military assassin team, is now owned by Monsanto. What the fuck? Do they expect that somebody soon will start rolling up there? Yeah, I think so. So Monsanto now controls Blackwater. Now, they was from, they was made from, they was put together from here from out of North Carolina. From out of North Carolina. Now Dr. Philly Neely Fuller Jr. says this. He said that if you do not understand white supremacy as racism, what it is and how it works, everything else that you understand will only confuse you. Now, this is coming from the United Independent Compensatory Code System and Concepts. All right, and this is what he also states, that the practice of racism done is actually in these 9 major areas of activity. All right, economics, education, entertainment, labor, law, politics, religion, sex, and war. Now, when we're talking about food, if you notice the way that they're trying to do it, we just been talking about how Monsanto now owns Blackwater. Now, Blackwater was in Afghanistan. It was where else? Exactly. Matter of fact, we heard about them in New Orleans. They was the ones who were sniping down the brothers and sisters who were supposed to be outside after curfew. We got inside reports on that coming from firemen, all right, down in New Orleans, right? I talked about that report, what actually happened in 2005 when the so-called Hurricane Katrina, when that took place. I did a videotape. It's called Weather Wars. All right. So we spoke about that. All right, because at that time we were getting reports about what's taking place. So Blackwater's been in quite a few places. They are actually, like I said, is an assassination team or company. They're for hire for assassinations. So the thing is that we just talked about Johnny Carpenter getting ready to sue Monsanto. All right. So I think they must have had another team prior to Blackwater. All right, because Blackwater definitely would do the same thing. So, in other words, if anyone else comes out and want to sue Monsanto, all right, then they would have some problems on it. And so we see that Monsanto has their workforce. So since that is the case, we just finished hearing that Neely Fuller said that one of the 9 battlefronts is war. All right, so that means the food market is now part of the war activity. All right, so your food and your health is an aspect of war, used as part of so-called elite's agenda. The genetically modified food, or genetically altered food, also called Frankenfood, was originally marketed as the necessity to combat famine, and particularly in the third world countries amongst the indigenous or darker people. All right? Now, also Monsanto bought a weather data company called the Climate Corporation for $1 billion. All right, David Fredberg company CEO found himself bending over backwards justifying his decision to sell it to Monsanto. Now, Monsanto also somehow found itself as owners or co-owners of the Whole Foods Corporation. Yes. Yes. Right. So, see that everybody was sell. All right. So, but there's a new joint coming on the scene, and that's Trader Joe. So now people's going to start going to Trader Joe's Whole Foods, you know, because we don't know what's going on with Whole Foods any longer because it ain't whole. Right, it ain't 365 no more. It was about 357. You know why it was 357? Somebody get taxed. Right. So this is what is going on. All right. So these are the little tidbits. All right. You know that also that President Barack Obama, he signed on to the Monsanto Act, in which that allows for them in order to be able to continue this seed monopoly. All right. Now we can actually, as the roots people, we can actually sue for Monsanto operating within each of the states, because in the state's constitution, it specifically states that there is no corporation or agency that can manipulate or monopolize the industry. Well, this is what they're doing, so that means that we can stop them if we choose to, right? Just by simply coming together. All right, but right here, in 2007, President Barack Obama stated that he's going to label the GMO food. But, of course, in reality, we know that he's not in charge of anything because he's the one, if you notice that all presidents, senators, congressmen, House of Representatives, or governors, or et cetera, they all have lobbyists. The lobbyists does what? They pull money out. And so that's their favor so that you can actually do my bidding, all right, when it comes time to pass certain laws. That's what's going on. All right, so the certain laws are passed, and you're looking at, like, for example, the Monsanto Act passed, President Barack Obama signed it. What was inside of it? Did you get a copy? No, because you don't have to give you a copy because that is between a corporation and corporation. The United States is a corporation, and he sits at the helm of the corporation. And so he was doing private business with another corporation, but it was on behalf of the public. So actually, it's not private. Because now you got them, or have them, to have the ability, I should say, to do things in the public which that might not be online or in their best interest. Right? So, now we know why the former Monsanto vice president is running the FDA. And we also know why a former Monsanto attorney is sitting on the Supreme Court. Everybody know his name? He's the one who had the sugar and the cocaine. Anybody remember that? I need help. Oh, okay. Right. You don't remember that? It's all over TV. All right, so he used to be a former lawyer or attorney for Monsanto. So now you might see how this Monsanto Act was pushed up on and passed by Barack Obama. His whole cabinet, you know what I'm saying, is infiltrated with Monsanto people. All right, matter of fact, the USDA is holding on subsidiary of Monsanto. If you look at who's the Monsanto consultant, one name is Toby Moffett. He also is a United States congressman. You have the Monsanto Legal Counsel, which is Dennis DeCorney Hirocarsinian, who is also a U.S. Senator. You have the Chemical Lab Supervisor, Margaret Miller, who is the Department Director of the FDA. All right, you have the Director of Internal Government Affairs, which is Marcia Held, and she's the White House Senior Staff. All right. So, I mean, we can go on with how this is all part of just controlling the White House. All right. And that's been ever since the Clinton administration on up to now. All right. So, however, it says the United States market now over 80% of the processed foods are genetically modified. 80%, over 80%. So, in 2006, the United States GMO crop reached just shy of 135 million acres, with the total global area exceeding 250 million acres. Right? Now, this is based on Discover magazine. It says what you eat affects your genes. All right? Now, this is what's in Discover magazine. A new study shows that the connection between your food biochemistry and your own may be more intimate than we thought. Tiny RNAs, usually found in plants, have been discovered circulating in blood. And animal studies indicate that they are directly manipulating the expression of genes. Plants manipulating the expression of genes. Now, this is just regular plants. Now, we ain't talking about GMO plants. Now, what you think GMO plants are doing? Right? Something much worse. Therefore, what are GMOs doing? What is GMOs doing in the body? It says, according to Genetically Altered Food and Your Health, this is a book by Ken Roseborough. GMOs are genetically modified organisms. He says that means that they are created by modifying the genes of a species, along with the introduction of foreign genes or DNA. So the first GMO was bacteria in 1973. GMO mice was generated in 1974. Insulin producing bacteria was commercialized in 1982, and the genetically modified food has been sold since 1994. All right? So we're just talking about 21 years of genetically modified food. We're still in the thing now of seeing what is really taking place on how non-GMO food versus GMO food, and how a change of a gene and how you can insert a new gene into making a new protein or a new frequency, altering the protein and changing the plant or the seed trait. Now, we also saw an article in which that talked about the first children, GMO children that's been born. So it's totally GMOs. All right? And I'll get to that article in a second here. All right, so what are some of the GMO foods? You can look at your salad dressings, your bread, your rolls, your pastries, canned rolls, bread, margarine, mayonnaise, chocolate, candy, frozen foods, tofu, soy burgers, aspartame, frozen yogurt, soy sauce, soy nuts and products, pasteurized cheese, soups, sauces, condiments, protein powders, alcohol, infant formula, baby cereal, hamburgers, hot dogs, processed meats, crackers, cookies, fried foods, chips, veggie burgers, meat substitutes, ice cream, soy cheese, processed cheese, barbecue sauces, canned stews, dried soups and sauces, dairy, drinks, vanilla, baking powder, etc., etc. All right. At the time, the United States does not require labeling of GMO food. Consider the following ingredients on food. The label is genetically modified unless the ingredient is certified organic or labeled non-GMO. All right. And once again, it goes into what we just talked about. Also, citrus acid, lactic acid, fructose, dextrose, cornmeal, corn syrup. Again, 80%. All right, over 80%. And now the main crops that they use is about 46 of the main crops, but we have soy, which is about 85% cotton, 76%, canola oil, 75%, corn, 40%, Hawaiian papayas, about 50%, zucchinis and yellow squash, small amount. Also, tobacco, 100%. All right. These are currently no genetically modified varieties of barley, edible beans, flax seeds, oats, beans, peas, certain rice, spelt, sunflowers, and other products which they have grown. They haven't started making GMO out of those as of yet. I'm pretty sure that's on the way. Because they're trying to control the whole seed market as we're talking about. Alright, so here, in an article called The World's First GMO Baby Born. This is June 29th, 2012. Right? So, the world's first genetically modified human has been created. They disclosed that 30 healthy babies were born after a series of experiments in the United States. Also, the human genome, or the gene, or the germline, in effect, taken with the very makeup of our species, is a technique shown by the investigator of the world scientists. Geneticists feel that one day this method could be used to create a new species of humans with extra design characteristics such as strength or high intelligence. China, Saudi Arabia, South Korea, countries in the Europe Union, Japan, Australia, New Zealand, Russia, India, and Chile are just a few of the nations that are already required food to be labeled. The United States views that once again currently will not force food corporations to label GMO food. And we can say showing you that they come up with no. Oh, boy. I got to laugh about this shit that goes on planet Earth. So here, it says, using geoengineering scientists have crafted many bioweapons. You know what they're really working on, all right? There's certain weapons which is based on E. coli, all right, and certain fungi in which that is being used. And actually being used based on races. They want to know what bacteria or fungi the most you can imagine it's us, right? Well, that's exactly what we found out. So the whole basic of bioengineering, the whole thing about producing these seeds, these germinated seeds, these particular crops, is to make us extinct, essentially. It's to sterilize us, depopulate the planet Earth, and it's to depopulate what the masters involved. The most people on the planet Earth, which are us, all right, dark-skinned people. This is what they're working on. All right, so you can find out, there's an article that says this is about 1070, the United States Army Journal published ethnic weapons. This is by Carl E. Lawson. He discussed ways to explore race-related tendencies, attack with certain pathogens that will not infect a designated genetic type. For example, the AIDS. All right? It goes on. That is one of the 25 of the 20
holistic infections listed on the CDC, which is the Center for Disease Control, in which they had some in which that is associated with AIDS diagnosis. And it goes on and says the political skinny Ebola is Alim, that's virus outbreak or deadly mycotoxin. This is by my man Kitty Awadu. Also, there's another book called AIDS, United States Germ Warfare at its Best, with documented proof by Dr. Jack Fielder. All right, so you know that AIDS was produced, but they talked about how there was other pathogens that was produced since 1970. All right, so I'm understanding that they're still working on these types of things. Now, I thought that AIDS was a crossbreed between the Vishnu virus, which is a sheep, as well as also what we refer to as cattle. All right, a cattle virus. All right, and those two, or they call the bovine virus, and those two was mixed together in a base of smallpox given to African and hepatitis here in America. All right, and that's what they use. And so that's actually how Robert Gallo was able to produce. He's one of the scientists who was working on these ethnic weapons in the 1970s. So by the 1980s, all of a sudden, they just broke out of nowhere, come out a monkey through the middle of his ass. That's what they said. Don't believe me? Go back and check that out. Well, remember, we just spoke about there, and then part of Monsanto, which is part of the eugenics program. So they're all part of the same thing. It's all part of the population control agenda. All right, which is produced mainly by the Rockefellers at the behest of the Rothschilds. All right? Understand that these are the richest families in the world. Now, really, I have to think about, we're talking about from 1943 to 1973, they had what was called the Tuskegee experiment that took place. All right? So, like Michael Jackson said, they don't really care about us. That's what's going on. He changed his mind quick from black and white. They get mad at he still real quick. You don't know how quick that was? When he started messing with him, they didn't realize, you still living. He had billions of dollars. He had the Beatles collection. He had Elvis collection. He had Richard collection. He had everybody's collection now. You know what I'm saying? And he owned 51% of Sony and everything. But by the time it was over, they didn't really care about us. You can hate me, kick me. Woo! All right, so these are just some of the books you can check out. Dr. Felder, he goes on and says, white people there are 6 billion people in the world today, and only 500 to 600 million are white people. They're also afraid that it will do to them what they have done to us for the last 500 years, genocides. So they're determined to reduce the people of color population by using AIDS and other methods, in which that we're talking about these other methods. And of course, like we said, the proof of that is based on the Tuskegee experiments, which that took place for between 30 to 40 years. And some say it started in 1932 to 1972. And others say it started in 1943 to 1973. One of the concerns, we know that it happened, is documented. You can get the book Bad Blood of the document. That's why you got that idea on you. Bad Blood. So, you got it. I bet you cut out the with it. All right, so, they also did a test on GMO food and how it affects pregnancy, the women and the fetus. And guess what they found out? The GMO food is transferred to the fetus 100%. 100%. That's what they found out in this study, in this article. So, it says 100% have at least one of these toxins from the GMO food. And one of these toxins called A-B. They have succinate, which is spelled Gluphosinate. They also have glyphosate, which is spelled Clyphosate. Now, some of these is part of the Monsanto Roundup herbicides. All right. So they found that at least one of these five, 90% always rape the barrier from the woman, and also leaves that poison and toxin within the child. All right. Now, what herbs can we use in which that can help with this? That's what we need to go to next. All right, there's blood clotting herbs. All right, you have chaparral, red clover, burdock, yellow dock, all right, casagara, all right, graviola, which is called soursop, turmeric, all right, Paniaco, Echinacea. Right? These are all herbs, all blood cleansing herbs that you can use. Right? They get rid of a lot of the toxins. There's another plant called the Tree of Life plant, which is called Tujalis. Thuja, Tujalis. Leaf. Tujalis. All right? It gets rid of vaccines. So even when a child gets vaccinated, within a matter of weeks, it can cleanse the child's system of the vaccine. All right? But it's the same for us. So this nonsense that they're doing to us, we need to do the same thing for this. So these are acting just like vaccines. They are attempting to insert frequencies and codes in our DNA, which we don't need. All right? And what is really going on in the spiritual level is that this is making people much more easily possessed. On the spiritual level, that's when you begin to start seeing the slits in the eyes because they have reptilians attached to their first and second chakra, or what's called astral entities. And which are attached to the reptilian portion of the brain, in which that gives off that slit eye that's in there. So it breaks down your auric field and creates leaks and holes in your auric field. It does damage to your DNA. So we're talking about the spiritual side, and we're talking about a physical side. All right? So this is what's going on. So here, it says independent studies. Egyptian studies found Monsanto GMO BT corn is not substantially equivalent to non-GMO corn. A rat-fed GMO BT corn developed liver, kidneys, and intestinal toxicity and male infertility by 91 days. 91 days. God died. Was growing. 3 months. The nigga impotent. And infertile. That problem with his digestive system, his liver, his kidneys, which of course is the urinary. Urinary is tied directly to the kidneys. So there's a lot of problems going on here. All right? So this is what an independent study found, and this is coming from out of Egypt. Right? There's another article. It says, new proof GMO causes tumors, organ damage, and premature death in rats. So we know for a fact that GMO food is used to not just make you sterile, mean, population control agenda, but it also kills you off quicker. So that, remember, understand that right in Georgia, they have I can't remember how tall it is right now, but there's blocks of stone, in which that written on the stone, it speaks about how many people are on planet Earth, and it's going to be 500 million. Now remember who I said that they have. They have 500 to 600 million people themselves. That's it. That's all they have. they're trying to get off it. Right, the $6 billion. Right, the other $6 billion. Exactly. So they only want themselves here.
But it's hard taking care of us.
Yeah, but they ain't got nothing to do with it. You know what I'm saying? Because if you left us alone, we can take care of ourselves. But you're the one that keep coming up with the mind control. You know what I'm saying? You keep coming up with these false flags. You keep coming up with ways in order to make sure that we're still under your foot. If you would let us go and let us fend for self, then there's no problem. But as long as you're attempting to take control of our lives, then there's a problem. All right? And so, yes, we should not be eating from them, and we should be able to begin to start growing our own crops. That's the thing that we need to start doing. All right? Because I just read an article where they have $100,000 over just less than 1 acre of land of crops. Over $100,000 over just 1 acre of land of crops. We don't need at least a 1 acre of land of crops. You know what I'm saying? That way we can get the money that we need in order to build a nation as we can. Right. Then that comes into the trade, that comes into the import and export, that comes into what we refer to it as? Not just the trade, but bartering system. Right. So we can have the bartering system as well as also the import and export business at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Understand that Black Wall Street was destroyed because of what? They didn't have an infrastructure of security. They had 600 businesses in the 30 block range, or in the 30 block range, but they did not have a security force. All right? We should have been owning Blackwater or something similar to it. You know what I'm saying? Because the whole thing was that, okay, we put the planes up, we dropped the bombs. You know, that's where the Gap Band got the song from. No, they was from Railroad. They was from Tulsa, Oklahoma. They was from there. You dropped the bomb on me. I wasn't that baby either. You know? So who was it that discovered that these rats began to start developing tumors? Well, remember, Eric Ferrellini. All right, Ferrellini. Said he holds up despite industry's criticism that GMO causes tumors. And I got pictures of the rat. I don't know if y'all can see it. I'm getting ready to shoot. You know, see if y'all can see this here. Liver, kidneys, and digestive tumors. This is what this is causing. GMO food is causing this. All right?
And this is the Latino brother in which that they mad about who discovered that it was causing tumors. So the herbs that I just made mention of, particularly red clover, yellow dock, golden seal, as well as also graviola and turmeric kills tumors and cancers in the body. So we have to go back to electrical foods. Herbs are electrical. That is one of our counterfronts that we can utilize is herbology. All right. Also, hydrogen peroxide, 8% food grade, can be also used. All right. Hydrogen peroxide, 8% food grade. It goes as high as 35% food grade. And you start putting little drops into your water and drinking a gallon of water a day. And it actually will sweep the tumors and cancers out your body, because everybody has cancer, you know what I'm saying, on a daily basis. That comes from not breathing deep enough. All right, and of course, one of the reasons why we don't breathe deep enough is because all the toxins that they put in the air anyway, the chemtrails. All right, let me explain. 65 million years ago, the Earth's atmosphere was 35% oxygen content. All right, so over the last 65 million years, it has dwindled to less than 21%. When we was little, it was 21%. Now it's talking about 17%, and they talk about if it gets to 15% oxygen content, we'll all suffocate. So they don't give a damn about the chemtrails that they put up into the air. That's it. Yes. Mhm. 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 In a gallon of water, up to 25 drops. Mhm. In a gallon of water. Mhm. Mhm. Right. Yes. Right. The content, right, is back up to 20, right, back up to 21%. Right. But here in America, in so-called North America, is about 17%. It ranges between 17 to 19% in oxygen content. When we was children, it was 21%. Right. So this industrialized system here has not worked, in our benefit. So the thing is that we breathe real shallow, and so because we breathe shallow and not enough oxygen goes into the cells, we develop cancer. If we was able to breathe deep enough and exhale the toxins properly, inhale and exhale, understand that the breath is the most important aspect of life. All right? There's nothing more important than breath. I know everybody say, I'm hungry, but you go without food for a month or more. You go without water for more than a week, but you can't go without the breath 3 minutes. All right? Now, if somebody willing to try that, with my phone at first, right, if I can call 911. So the breath is the most important aspect of life. All right? There is no life without the breath. That's it. So you have to learn how to breathe properly. That is essential. That is the most important thing. This is why when you practice Qigong or Tai Chi or different other energy modalities, that's the most important factor that they focus on, is the breath, learning how to breathe. Meditation is nothing more than learning how to breathe. That's all it is. That's meditation. Because if you can breathe deep enough, inhale, exhale, the toxins out, then you basically just control every component and facet of your physical body. Because your breath controls your heartbeat, it controls your digestive system, it controls your nervous system, it controls your brain, it controls everything about you. Your breath does that. All right? What's the difference between a living person and a dead person? Living person breathing, dead person ain't. All right? Simple enough? Right? That's simple enough? What y'all think? All right, so that's the main thing. So, I got people that's always trying to debate. Brother, you said so-and-so. Brother, I don't give a damn. Only thing I'm concerned about is breathing. You take that shit up with the books I got it from. I'm sure they'll be elated to indulge you in your debate. Right now, I ain't got time, nigga. I got 3 minutes before I go to meditation. All right, so my wife's got to ask my wife. I'm meditating. I'm doing my Reiki, doing my Qigong, whatever. People calling. Brother, sister, he's kind of busy right now. Every day. He's kind of busy. You might want to call back a little bit later. All right, so that's the main focus that we all need to be concentrating on. All right, so what's the most 5 common GMO food? Well, like we said, 80% of the conventional food contain GMO. All right, so let's see here. We got corn. Like we said, up to 85% of the corn is GMO. We got cotton. 90% of the cotton is GMO. We got canola oil, right, which is derived from rapeseed oil. All right, toxic, exactly. We got sugar beets. All right, beets, 95%. Good God Almighty. All right. All right, so those are the top 5. Then, of course, you got Hawaiian papayas, like we said. So don't get the Hawaiian papayas because more than 50% of them is GMO. All right, make sure they come from South America or somewhere. All right. All right, so people want to lose weight. The reason why you can't lose weight is because the GMO food. Right. Rats, mice, pigs, and salmon eating genetically modified corn and soy get fatter quicker than those eating non-GMO food and retain that weight according to a 10-year studies by scientists from Norway and 5 other countries. Oh, that's the reason why white girls got shapes now. All of a sudden, they got ass. 20 years ago, before the GMO food, no ass. Who remember that? Hold on, I know I ain't the only brother up in here remember that. I remember that. All right, them was my college days. Nah. Over there. Yeah, Jimmy might. I was a militant Muslim in college. Don't come with me that shit. All right, so if genetically modified food is safe, I have pictures of the scientists wearing biohazard uniforms. So if it's safe, why are they wearing biohazard uniforms? Oh, hold on. Let me see if I can get that picture. Why are they wearing, if GMO food is healthy as they say it is, why are they wearing biohazard uniforms? With gloves? And masks? Wow. Right, they don't want to even touch it. I mean, that means that's like pig to a Muslim, that ain't. That was another article that we just read today, yo. The Chinese sold halal pig. Ooh, boy. No, they don't give it in. They making money. They making money. What is that? Some of the companies that oppose GMO labeling, of course, is Heinz Ketchup, Ocean Spray, Smuckers, the Coca-Cola Company, Post, Hershey, Welch's Grapes, Bumblebee, Del Monte, Campbell, Sara Lee, Smithfield, Godiva, Godiva, yeah, that's them. Hornell, DuPont, Dow Agro Sciences, Kraft Foods, Kellogg, what is his name? Nestle, and Pepsi Cola, and Clorox, what's that? Wrigley, gum. Goya, you know, the little Mexican stuff in the stores. Yeah, seasonings and everything. So they have post-GMO? No, it's bought. Oh, wow. Oh, to the Japanese? Right. Yeah. So you know when we break down the street from Smithfield, so we know we've got to smell the nasty behind trucks passes every daggone day. All right. So here it says, know your labels. What does the code mean? You got a 5-digit code on your fruit. Whenever you see a fruit, all right, look at the code. All right. Now, if the code for organic, the color of it is green. Right now, is a 5-digit code It has 5 digits. It starts with a 9. So if it starts with a 9 and it's green, then that's organic. If it starts with there's another 5-digit code, which starts with an 8, that means it's GMOs. Now, if it starts with there's also a 4-digit code, which means conveniently, which actually means it contains pesticides. If it's 4 code, all right. So check your fruit when you get your peaches, your plums, your apples, your oranges, everything. Check it out and make sure it's a 5-digit code. It starts with a 9. That means it's organic. If it's a 5-digit code, it starts with an 8. It's GMO. If it's a 4. So see, this is the way that they do label it. You got to know the code. All right. So they all actually label it, but not saying that it's GMO. But they're not telling you that one is a 5-digit code that starts with an 8. Okay. Right. When you go pick it up, right, the numbers that they have. Right. Go through it's all universal. So you can go to Harris Teeter, you can go to Whole Foods, you can go to, that's how you would know they're Whole Foods. Now, also another thing about Whole Foods is that when they started selling grapes that had no seeds and calling it organic, I knew right there that somebody that lost their damn mind. I knew then that somebody that lost their mind. You know what I'm saying? Because to be organic means that it must be something in it that's living. If it ain't have no seeds, then it's not what? It's not living. It's not alive like it needs to be. It's not going to do too much for you. All right? So when they started doing that, and watermelons had no seeds come out as organic, I'm like, exactly. I mean, you know, something wrong. Yeah. So I knew it wasn't too long later they were going to sell us the Monsanto. Right. So once again, the 4-digit is just conventional. That's the one that has pesticides on it, which if there's apples which have the wax on it, you can actually soak that in red apple cider vinegar or in lemon juice, and that would cleanse off the wax and off the apples. So, you know, that's good in that sense. They also have, go to Whole Foods or either Trader Joe, they have a spray, a cleanser for fruits, all right, that you can also utilize. Yeah. Right, hydroperoxide, 8% to 35% full grade.
I have a 9-iron
water machine
in my house. And I put it on strong acidic, and I wash my fruit.
Yeah, you can wash your fruit and vegetables in that.
You deal with nitrogen just on a week, 10 days for long.
Yeah.
I tried on the fruit and everything. You can amazed and stuff coming off of that water.
Right.
All that pesticide.
Yeah.
Take a whole lot of
Exactly. So those are your options, y'all. See, that's what they're talking about. We come to give solutions. Because we got all, you can see the problems. That's all over the place. All right, so there's certain companies that you can, begin to start connecting with, like Deerland Enzyme. All right, that's from out of Georgia. All right, they have non-GMO enzymes. Enzymes are necessary for the transference of for food to be transferred to energy. Without enzymes, your body can't handle it. All right? So enzymes is number one, especially for O blood types. O blood types need more enzymes than the other blood types because they're the oldest blood type and they have more gastric juice. Right? O means original blood. A blood type is a Gorian blood type. All right, let me go a little bit. O blood type dates back to 300,000 years ago. That means O means original. Right? Then you have A blood type, which dates back to 3,000 years ago, which is a Gorian blood type. That blood type was developed as people begin to go higher up into mountain regions. All right. Then you have B blood type, which dates back to 13,000 years ago, before the last ice age, which means balance. So that means it's the balance between the O blood type and A blood type. B blood type is the balance between the two. That means the intermixture of the two blood types develops B blood type. Then you have AB blood type that dates back to 2,000 years ago, which is the newest blood type on the planet. All right, O blood type made all of them, many of them made O blood type. All right, so that means that in a hospital, O blood type can only take O blood type. adaptation. They have to adapt to the environment that they was in which that produced the blood type in which that came A blood type or AB blood type or B blood type. Those are based on adaptation within the blood. Antigens, as they refer to it as. Antigens, based on the coagulation of the antigens on, like if I took a blood type kit and I pricked my finger, if I did, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, there's like 4 spaces, and based on the way that, it shows up. Right. Thank you. Say that again louder.
Based on how the blood coagulates, that's your type.
Right, that's your type. So, it will show you based on that blood type, which is only $10 in Walgreens. If you don't know what your blood type is, that's essential to know because it's a book written by Peter Diamante, in which that is called How to Eat Right for the 4 Basic Blood Types. All right? And that can give you some basic. You ain't got to take everything in the book. All right? But it gives you some idea on the foods in which that is more beneficial to you as that blood type. Okay? So that's essential to know. All right? Especially when you deal with GMO food. Yeah.
What about RH?
We're going to wait until the 8th of the reptilian. Okay. All right. RH positive is supposed to be the rhesus monkey gene. That is the blood type in which that is more closely towards the rhesus monkey gene, which would be like the chimpanzee is 98% of our, supposed to have 90% of DNA. Or it's the same chromosome pattern as humans. This is what they claim. All right? Now, RH negative is those who do not have the monkey gene, but yet is allegedly tied more towards the reptilian or the older species, which that once existed upon this planet. Oh, so yeah, let me tell you. There's a whole boy. We go over to a whole other subject. but the RH negative normally is found within O negative blood type. All right? O negative blood type. That's normally where it's found. Yes, Walgreens sells the blood kit for about $10 to $15. The only thing that you just, it's like a little thing, just prick the finger and just put the blood on one of the 4 spots or areas that it tells you your blood type.
I have a question. How accurate is it?
Just 20% accurate. Mm-hmm.
You don't have like a diagram to let you know what your blood type is. Your blood does look like this.
Right, exactly. So they have a card that shows you exactly how it looks. So you just look at your card, see which one it is out of the 4, and that's what it is. And so you just then go and get the book, How to Eat Right for the 4 Basic Blood Types, and then just check out the foods, the water, the herbs, different other things in which that you insert into your body in which that works the best or which is more beneficial. There's food that is neutral, and there's food that is poisonous. So you have foods that is beneficial for you as a blood type, nutrients, as well as poisonous. Peter Diamanto, I think it's spelled D''A', C''A', something like that, Diamanto, something like that. Okay? All right, so we need enzymes. Enzymes is very necessary, especially, remember, we just talked about the fact that GMO food causes what? Digestive problems, right? So enzymes help move the poisons from out of your digestive system. That's what enzymes do. And it breaks it down so that it won't become part of you. All right? Now, in order to help with also the thyroid gland condition, because what happens is that these GMO foods messes up the thyroid gland and slows it down. So this is why now you have all these issues. People notice how so-called black folks all of a sudden have all these issues with thyroid gland condition. All right? Only thing you have to do is start taking black Himalayan or pink Himalayan salt. You take about a tablespoon of that in the morning, and you drink your water throughout the day. The pink or black Himalayan salt cleanses the body out of the toxins. It also helps with making sure that there's no infections in the body. It also helps with the digestive system. It also helps with the increased thyroid gland so that your thyroid gland will function normally. All right, so hence keeping the weight off of you so that you can't get obese. All right? Ask a person who's obese, if they go to the doctor and ask them what the doctor say about their thyroid gland. They're only going to tell them that it's underactive. All right? It's underactive. So hypothyroid condition. All right? That's what they're going to tell them that they have. So what that means is that you have to get your thyroid gland back to condition. You can do that through pink Himalayan salt, which has the necessary nutrient called iodine. Iodine is necessary for us to take. The reason why we have high blood pressure in our community is because we don't have enough salt. And that's the opposite of what they're telling you at the doctor's office. Because the salt that you're eating is table salt, which has no iodine in it whatsoever. You need iodine. It's a necessary nutrient, a necessary nutrient that you need on a daily basis. Sea salt, but pink Himalayan salt is even better because it has 78 minerals in it. 78 to 82 minerals in the Himalayan salt. So not only do you get, you can go to our website, www.dralim.com, or you can go to check it out on the website. There you go. There you go. Right, perfect. There you go. So that's what you need. That's what you need on a daily basis. You need almost a tablespoon of pink Himalayan salt in the morning, and as soon as you wake up, within the first 20 minutes of when you wake up, with a liter of water you need to drink. All right? Then you drink the rest of your 12, out of this, now what, a liter is about, 216 or so, that's about 4 right there you drink that morning. So the other 8 you drink throughout the day. In which I would give you about a gallon of water that you would have drunk throughout the day. So now, understand is that defecation and urination only makes up 10% of the waste you move from the body. 20% from your skin. 70% from breathing. So once again, this is why I'm talking about that the breath is so important. All right? So once again, we think that if we have a good taste of this shit, that's it. We done cleaned ourselves out. We done cleaned ourselves out. And then, we use the enema or whatever, then we got a little bit more out. But that's still not 70%. 70%, once again, is the waste produced in your body. 70% of it is removed by breathing. 70%. It's a new article I just read just 3 days ago. It spoke about how you lose weight. Guess what they found out? That fat is removed by breathing. Right. You working, you doing all that damn hyperventilating. You know what you got to do? They'll stand in the damn mirror and do 5,000 damn. Right, or while you watching TV. Well, them niggas out there doing all that running, I'm doing 5,000 of them and having a damn 6-pack, and they got to hyperventilate themselves. And I'm doing it by breathing. Because fat is removed by breathing. This is an actual article that said that. And I'm like, so why don't you just teach them how to breathe? Instead, guess what the article goes back to? Oh, of course you need to eat the proper foods, but it's also exercise. Oh, that's it. You just said the same thing. Because when you start breathing, then you go back to this other 30%. So 30% is done by what? Exercising and what? And eating right. But the other 70% is done by breathing. So instead of this damn article teaching people how to damn breathe, It went back to the damn 30%. I said, ain't this some shit? All right, so these are some of the products in which that you can actually get in which that has no GMOs in it. A lot of them is at Trader Joe. Some of them is at Whole Foods. Some is at GNC. Some is at Vitamin Shop. All right, right, and some of the other herbal companies that you can find. All right, so it says a movable feast. All right, it's one of the companies. Alvarado Street Bakery, Berlin Natural Bakery, Bridgewell Resources, Cape Cod Selection, Funky Monkey Snacks. All right, I'm scared of that one. But anyway, Grain Place Food, Great Eastern Sun, Heinz Celestial, Harbor, Hemp Oil Canada, Davidson Commodities, Earth Balance, Eating Foods Incorporated, Endangered Species Chocolate, EO Products, Follow Your Heart, Choice Organic Teas, Kettle Foods, Little Duck Organic, Lotus Foods, Luna and Larry's Coconut Bliss, Angie, Amy, Newberg Family Farms, Mary Gone Crackers. Right now, that right there is Modesto Milling Incorporated, Sanjay International, One Natural Experience, which is the one, Organic Valley Family of Farms, Rainbow Light, Real Food, Rice Select, Nancy's Cultural Dairy and Soy, Natural Path Food, Nature's Path Foods, New Chapter Incorporated, Naxel Natural Ingredients, Northland Seeds and Grain Corporation, R.W. Garcia Corporation, Selva Smart Natural Products, SK Foods Incorporated, and Starbush Island Farm. Starbush Island Farm. Turtle Island Foods, United Natural Foods, U.S. Soy, Viterra, White Wave Food Company, Wholesome Fitness. All right, so those are just some of the companies in which that do not sell GMO foods. All right. Right here, you see. Oh yeah. Okay. Here we go. Brother brought me some documents on which they dealt with Henrietta Lacks. It says the Fed resettlement on the use of DNA information because this is also what the vaccination, some of the vaccines is based on is the Henrietta Lacks seed cells, Henrietta Lacks cells. All right. There's a book called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. All right.
That's how they got cancer into the country.
Right. Right. She had cancerous cells.
Ovarian cancer.
Right. She has ovarian cancer. And so her name is Henrietta Lacks, and says the scientists know her as Hilax. She was a poor black tobacco farmer whose cells, taken without her knowledge in 1951, became one of the most important tools in medicine, vital for developing the polio vaccine, cloning, gene mapping, and more. Henrietta Lacks cells has been bought and sold by the billions. Yet she remains virtually unknown, and her family cannot even afford help. So recently, the article here, Henrietta Lacks family says research settlement on the use of DNA information. It says some 60 years ago, a doctor in Baltimore removed cancer cells from a poor black patient named Henrietta Lacks. Without her knowledge or consent, those cells eventually helped lead to a multiple medical treatments and laid the groundwork for the multi-billion-dollar biotech industry. All right, it's a saga famous by the 2010 Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. And of course, this article goes into more information about her, so I'm going to pass this around so everybody can check it out. All right, so you'll also see that the medical portion that they talk about is the vaccine. So her cancerous cells is used as part of the basic vaccine. All right. This is also, I don't know if you might know Brother O'Teen. Brother O'Teen, he used to do videos back in the day. So he spoke about an experience of when they was working at the CDC, which is the Central Disease Control in Atlanta, Georgia. He stated that he had news of some brothers who switched the vaccines from going to a ghetto or a urban area with a suburb area. They sent police, they sent helicopters, the SWAT, to stop the different vaccines from going. But what they did was check the one that was going to the suburbs and changed it to the urban or to the so-called ghetto. They took the one that's going to the ghetto in order to send it to the suburbs. They went crazy. So this goes back to what we were talking about, how they have ethnic weapons. And one of the ethnic weapons is actually working its way through the vaccine. All right? And Henrietta Lacks cells was used for the cancer research and for the cancer in order to now pass. Cancer never existed. Now, remember, we just talked about that. It was in 1951. By 1965, cancer increased dramatically amongst the black community. All right? Before 1960, we never knew of cancer. So they used her cancerous cells in order to put that in the vaccines. So by the 70s, we've seen an increase of cancer amongst our people, as it's still continuing on today. So they used her cells in order to do that. Right? This is the multi-billion-dollar industry that they're talking about, is how they was able to utilize her cells to put cancer amongst our people. All right? But we know the cure for cancer too. All right? You need a teaspoon of baking soda. That's on what? Ta-da!
Doctors have studied.
Yeah, because it's alkaline. It makes your body alkaline. The reason why cancer cannot survive in an alkaline body. The body has to be 7.4 in alkalinity. If it's not 7.4 in alkalinity, then cancer can survive. But if it's not, I mean, if it's 7.4, then you're straight. You have no cancer. So the baking soda causes the body to be alkaline. All right? Also, cancer is also produced by a fluke worm. All right? And which that the herbs in order to destroy that is wormwood, cloves, garlic, and black walnut. Those 4 herbs will destroy worms, parasites, bacteria, and viruses in your body. It's about about a half of a teaspoon. Mm-hmm. I would do about a half to 1/4 to a half of a teaspoon. Cloves, 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 garlic, wormwood, black walnut. Wormwood. Worm, W-O-R-M, wood, W-O-O-D, wormwood. All right, so also there's other fruits and vegetables in which that is very alkaline. All right, stevia, lemon, watermelon, limes, grapefruits, mangoes, natural papayas, make sure they're not from Hawaii, onions, vegetable juice, parsley, raw spinach, broccoli, garlic, olive oil, herbal teas, and lemon water. When you wake up in the morning, you could actually squeeze a whole lemon into your water, which is about 16 ounces or 2 liters, and drink that. And that will alkaline your body all day long. Now understand that when your body is alkaline, that means there's no diabetes. There's no high blood pressure. There's no potential for stroke, heart attack. Sorry, they don't exist. The body is alkaline. The body is electrical. Electrically charged. Melanin has the ability to receive an electrical charge.
You can test your alkalinity chemistry.
All right. Now, to further make you understand this, you go to physicists. Quantum physicist, his name is Dr. Pope, or Pop. He declared that the human organism is not only carnivorous or a vegetarian being, but also a consumer of light. Don't miss that. Oh, that's deep. Quantum physicist, Dr. Pop says that the human organism is not only carnivorous or vegetarian being, but also a consumer of light. In fact, it behaves like a lumivarious creature. In other words, earlier on in our earthly development, we were light vampires. There were still many conscious of ones now. Any melanated person that applies the teachings of Reiki, pranic energy, Qigong, Tai Chi, or Keto, etc., are actually light vampires. In other words, you are children of the sun. You are a child of the sun, or as we would say, Misro, which is the ancient Egyptian word. We are Misro, one born of the rays of the Ki of Ra. We are one born of Ra, which is the sun. All right? So we're Misra. Misra becomes the word Muslim or Muslim later on in the Arab rendition of our ancient mystery school, because it was talking about us being sun worshipers. And that sun worshipers like, also pagans. Yeah, that's not what that means. When we're talking about sun worship, what they were talking about that you see the spirit of Akhenaten, and Nefertiti and their children have their hands up towards the sun. They're doing Qigong. That is the ancient teaching. Qigong, which is martial arts developed in Africa first, then it got its way into Asia by Bodhidharma from out of India, who was part of the Tamil people, who were the pre-Davidians, who was actually related to the Ethiopians or the Kushites, one and the same people. So as they went into Asia, it said that Bodhidharma to the monks at the Shaolin Temple, and because they kept falling asleep during meditation, he started teaching them how to do moving meditation, which becomes Qigong. And which that style that he done was called the 18 Lohan position. The 18 Lohan position. Right? And so that's what developed into Qigong, which developed into Tai Chi, which developed into Kung Fu, later karate. Right? But the martial arts system came from out of the interior of Africa. From the Kushite, which is the Nuba people, on up into Africa, which is right on the walls, dating back to 6,000 years ago. All right? Dating back to almost 6,000 years ago. That's more than almost 2,000 some odd years before the Asians even got it. We already had it. Okay? You go to the temple of what's called Amenhotep. Right? In the temple of Amenhotep, it shows you the hieroglyphics of the nature of martial arts. They're fighting, they're doing wrestling, they're doing boxing, they're doing martial arts, kicking, grappling, they're also doing having weapons and everything. That's right there. Okay? So we have to understand our, development in our ancestry. There's, however, a difference between a light vampire, which is a pranic intaker, and a psychic vampire, which is a pranic drainer. All right? Oftentimes you get around a person who they might be ill or whatever the case is, and they seem to draw energy from you, and then you go home and you tired. You don't know why you're so damn tired because they just drain your energy. These are psychic vampires. All right? So there's a difference between a psychic vampire and a pranic intake, right? Or what is called a light vampire. Remember, go back to the movie Blade. All right? My man, Wesley Snipes, was what? A day walker. Right, he was a day walker. He was a vampire who had none of that, who was able to go during the day. The Abion, who was so-called vampires, can't come out in the day. They had to put on like suntan 5,000. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. All right, so that's what's going on, y'all. All right, so when you go to Malachi, the 4th chapter, the 1st through the 3rd verse, very something special is happening because it says, surely the day is coming and will burn like a furnace. All the arrogant and evildoers will be stubble, and the day this will come will set them on fire, says the Lord Almighty. Not a root or a branch will be left to them, but for who reveres my name, the Son of Righteousness will rise with healing in his wings, and he will go out and leap like calves released from a stall. Then you will trample down the wicked, and they will be ashes under the soles of your feet on the day when I do these things, says the Lord Almighty. Now, I won't get into the rest of it. Right? But this is what we come to the understanding of, is that it's going to be hot time. It's going to be hot. That's what I'm telling you. All right? And if you ain't seen by this last week, we in June and we're having 140 degrees already. All right? But the sun, of course, we know is 93 million miles away. It takes 8 minutes and 20 seconds for the sun rays of the sun to touch down to planet Earth. It takes exactly 8 minutes and 20 seconds for the blood in our body to go through our entire body to bathe our brain in nutrients. So that's why you get an image of the sun out there, because once you eliminate within yourself and you raise that kundalini or that internal life force up to the crown, to the pineal gland, you develop a halo or that glow. Remember on Bruce Lee was? You know what I'm saying? But Bruce Lee came up with that water, I am. And then you started glowing. You got that glow. So that's what we have to do. We have to get to the glow. All right? And so that comes through certain breath techniques. All right? There's 3 particular breath techniques in which that can give you that glow. If you constantly work on it, it expands your auric field 15 feet outside of you as compared to the average person only 3 feet. So the average person's auric field is about right here in diameter around. That's about it, 3 feet. All right, so you can do yours 5 times greater, 15 feet outside. All right, and so you do that through what's called the pranic breath. All right, you have 6-3-6-3. Hold it for 3 seconds. Out for 6 seconds. Hold it for 3 seconds. You get 100 times a day. Or you can do the 7-1-7-1. Breathe up for 7 seconds. Hold it for 1 second. Breathe out for 7 seconds. Hold it for 1 second. Or you can do it empty retention, where you don't have a count. You just simply hold it for 1 second. You breathe in, hold it for 1 second, breathe out for 1 second. Again, hold it for 1 second. Then continue going. Either one of those 3 that you choose, you have to do it 100 times. All right? And then you feel 15 feet outside of you. Right? So that magnetizes your auric field, and if you do it long enough, what happens is that just like ancient masters, they were able to get their auric field to up to a mile outside of themselves. All right, and that's some serious magnification. All right, so when you hear about people like Yogananda, you know what I'm saying, or Simeon Toko, you know, or any of these types of people who had these Christ-like abilities, you know what I'm saying, or, you know, who was able to do marvelous and miraculous things. All right, in particular, like Simeon Toko. Simeon Toko, you read the issue of Nexus magazine, it's called The Rise of the African Avatars of their merchants. All right, this is something that you don't know about yourself. Simeon Toko was so dangerous. All right, they couldn't do nothing with this dude. They chopped up his body. All right, there was an Albion, a Belgian, who claimed that, you know, it was a lawnmower, some type of lawnmower type of machine, and they asked Simeon Toko to, you know, get up under it in order to, you know, find out what was going on. Well, while he was up under it, dude turned on the damn machine, chopped up Simeon Toko's body. Well, there's hundreds of people who were standing there who saw this nigga put his body back together and got the hell up. Yo, this is beyond Jesus. Like, this ain't nigga just walking on water. And y'all being amazed. Now, this is hundreds of people who saw this dude do this. And all the ones who saw him do this converted to his belief. So they said, well, whatever this nigga is doing, I'm following him. Look him up. Simeon Toko. Simeon. Right. Simeon Toko. Toko. Look him up. Simeon Toko. 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 Look him up. It was in the Nexus magazine. And this is nothing. This dude projected 1,000 seraphims right before the masses' eyes, before the Belgian army, and he whooped their ass, whooped down 1,000 projections of these small, dwarf, pygmy-looking people, brothers who was muscular. One of the witnesses said that they saw one of these men turn over a 5-ton truck with one arm. So his mental projection was 1,000 more dwarf-like people beat up a whole damn Belgian army. And within a year, they damn Congo won their freedom. Angola won their freedom. Because of him. Don't look at the history. This is stuff that I'm talking about. They thought they had this dude. They took his heart out his chest. And they said, well, you ain't now, you ain't going to live now. This nigga popped up on the damn table and said, put my heart back in my chest. This is the type of stuff that I'm talking about. This is documented. People see, hundreds and thousands of people seen this.
Ready? Yeah. Let me give you some of the next time. Everybody can look it up for themselves. Go online and check out the things about Apollonius.
Oh, yeah, Apollonius, yeah.
Apollonius.
Mm-hmm. Apollonius, A-P-O, A-P-P-O-L-L. L-E?
You know, Google will fix it.
Lonely, yeah. What? In U.S. Lonely is. Right.
Check it out.
Right. We can get you the beginning and the end part. Right. Google will figure it out. All right, Google will figure it out. We got it. All right. Right. And also look up an individual by name the Pisos, or Orion Pisos, A-R-I-U-S, Orion Pisos, or Pisos, P-I-S-O. All right. He's the one who put together your New Testament based off the 72 so-called Jews who put together the Old Testament. All right. And he actually put together the New Testament based on what he's seen in Egypt, off the walls of Egypt. All right, and he put that story together based off of that information he found there. He was related to Herod, he put in the Bible, Testament, who was supposed to be running after Jesus and ran Jesus into Egypt. All right. Notice how Egypt's supposed to be negative and bad, but yet all the day prophets coded. Jeremiah went to Egypt. Moses went to Egypt. Matter of fact, the book of Acts said Moses was going through all the ways up in the deeds of the ancient Egyptians. You know what I'm saying? They went wild with it. You know what I'm saying? Abraham went to Egypt. Joseph went to Egypt. Everybody went to Egypt. Jesus went to Egypt. Everybody go to Egypt. You know, I'm going in there too. Shit. All right, so right here, asking avatars in the third secret of Fatima. This is it right here. So, all right, Semyon, you got it right here. The book extracts features which is primarily about a man named Semyon who died in 1884. He wrote his death, y'all. Semyon appeared before people in an aboriginal body and in a dream state where he was physically alive and continued to do so among certain selected people 17 years after he willed his natural death. After he willed himself dead, he kept coming back and saying, yo, Mom, now you need to get that right. Look. All right? And so it goes on and says, and saw him alive again a few days. Check this out. This is what I'm talking about. At least one witness said that he personally killed this man. Now, this is the dude who killed him. Now, that ain't on their conviction. If they said him information now, this was the dude who killed him. He said, look, and remember, he said, quite professionally, I might add. He said, and he saw him alive again a few days later. And he was a hired killer. Dude was a hired killer to kill Semyon and said he killed him professionally, I might add. And the dude was seen alive a few days later. He said others still living at the time of his writing said they saw Tucker physically slaughtered and witnessed him bring himself back to life before their astonishing eyes. There was a very large body of testimony of which a little has yet been recorded or written down for witnesses. So guess what? They wrote the book. The book is The African Avatars in the Third Secret of Fatima. Who's Fatima? Fatima is the daughter of Prophet Muhammad. Fatima is also the name for Mother Mary. All right? This is how you know Catholic Church has something to do with the formation of Islam. Astaghfirullah. I won't give you that one. That's in the tape, though, not up here. I got one. It's called The History of Islam. They probably be mad at me after that one. But anyway, right here. So he goes on to say, much of the media news from Africa in the past 80 years has been presented as political rebellion and tribal warmongering, or a battle between good civilized countries versus evil communist ones over the souls of the Africans. So he goes on, so I don't want to read all of this, but he goes on further. I'm going to pass this around, y'all can read it. Here you go. But he goes on further about the events that I've just told you all about, all right? So not only did he get up after his heart was taken out and told him to put his heart back in, and then guess what? They put his heart back in. And he actually shows, I got the picture of him actually showing his scar of where they took his heart out. He shows it. So y'all niggas, just like that Atomic, I said, they ain't gonna believe until I put my fingers in this nigga's hands and his feet and his side. Well, guess what? I got the picture to me in Tokyo just saying, yeah. Right, yeah. Right. Is that? All right. Well, I'm glad we brought you back. Because when I got the presentation, I mean, you're doing the best next thing. You're doing the best next. Because don't they have like my little, little film projector and stuff, but I forgot it, so I got to go from here and go off the head, and he helped. That helped greatly. All right, so Simeon Toko. Now there's another guy by the name of Simon Kabongo. That's who my wife is talking about, who resurrected a child who died 4 days. Just the same story about Lazarus. Remember, it was past 3 days for Lazarus. It was 4 days for Lazarus. Jesus would go and raise Lazarus. Well, Simon Kabongo did the same thing with a little child. Resurrected a child. He made the lame walk. He made the blind see. He made the deaf hear. He did all these things. You know what I'm saying? Right. Same thing as Apollonia. So there's always been brothers and sisters on this planet that's been able to do these types of feats. What was his name again? Simon Kabongo. Kimba NGU. Kabongo. Right, yeah. So, yeah. Hey. Right. That's right. Right. Apollonia is right. Exactly.
Give me that first name again.
S-I-M-O-N. Simon Kabongo and Simeon Toko. All right. So this means there's been many avatars on this planet, like the brother said, Apollonius. You know what I'm saying? In which some say that story of Jesus was based on him. You know what I'm saying? But then also the story is based on Tutankhamun, King Tut, who's known as the living God. Also the story is based on Imhotep, who was the father of medicine and was the first major healer. You know what I'm saying? Where right now you can go to the walls of Abydos, and you which is is a beam in which that you can look up and actually see all the same instruments that they use now in the medical field is right there on the damn wall. And that's been there ever since the 3rd dynasty up under Imhotep, who was the prime visor. This is where the story of Joseph comes from in your Bible. Joseph is Imhotep. And then they took that same story of Imhotep being the great healer and applied it to Jesus being the great healer. Right. 325 AD under Constantine. We brought 318 bishops, right, and one was excommunicated who was Arian, who did not agree with the creation of this made creature that they were getting ready to do. So they were trying to unify the thoughts of people under our ancient mystery school system, but they was going to take the mystery, you know what I'm saying, and control it. And that's what they was going to do. They was going to try to control it. They was going to manipulate this creature who they call Serapis. Right? Serapis was the individual creature that they molded and shaped through their theology, in which that becomes the Jesus story. Because you know that there was no J in the alphabet until 500 years ago, so you know the nigga name wasn't Jesus. You know, that's the whole thing. I mean, you know what I'm saying? His name was Isus, which Isus becomes the same word as Zeus. Okay, with the Roman, which is the Latin, which is the Zeus, is the what? Is the Roman, Greco-Roman deity, what he's called? He's called the Pantheon god. He's the head of the Pantheon. He's the head of Olympus. Right? So he's the Greco, the Roman version of him is Jupiter. So you have Zeus. Zeus becomes Jesus. Jupiter and Zeus combined becomes Jesus, or Jesus. Right, and now, right, so, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, bro.
Yeah, but I always wonder about that. I kind of learned that and I've never seen the Black Madonna child being in
but there's over 200 countries that have it.
Yeah, I wonder why they kept them. Because they ended up changing image while they were teaching, like Alexander and all that.
Right.
Why did they ultimately keep them? I guess they wanted to get that practice being black. There were some certain, I guess, European religions that did kind of do that, originated off of black. So that's, I guess, the
Well, what they found it in Romania. They found the Black Madonna child. They found it in Russia. They found it in Scandinavia. They found it in Poland. They found it in Germany, Austria, right? Scotland, Ireland. They found it in England. They found it in Spain. They found it in Portugal. They found it in Italy. So they're found all over the world. As a matter of fact, there's over 200 countries that Runoko Rashidi speaks about that has been found. All right? So we're just talking a little bit of the countries. You know, shoot, we're talking about 200 different countries. So, and we've seen the Pope, the last two popes, the one who just retired and the one who's in and out, Pope Francis, they both was daggone talking in front of the daggone Black Madonna child. And this is the same Black Madonna child that the Pope, when he got shot back in the 80s, 1984, Pope John II, when he got shot, he didn't go directly to the hospital. He went first to go and pray for the Black Madonna child in the damn basement. They ain't supposed to be honest or not. Well, the last pope came out first with the Moor's head on his robe. All right, he came out with the Moor's head on his robe. So he started it off. So they all know what it goes back to. When my wife and I went to England, in particular London, we went to the Grand Lodge, the United Grand Lodge of England, and they weren't even going to let us in. But luckily, they was acknowledging women Masons that week or that month. And my wife goes in. I told her, I said, tell her that we traveled a long way. Because they love the traveling thing. So I said, tell her we travel. And so my wife went in, look, we traveled a long way. We need to see what's up there. And she said, come on in. So we, because the two brothers that was with us, they already tried to get in and couldn't get in. So we sent my wife in because we saw that they was acknowledging women Masons. So I said, going up there and they're going to hopefully let us in. So guess what? They let us in. And so we go upstairs to the museum portion. Then they will let us into the museum portion and also to the library. First we went to the museum portion. Now the curator of the museum portion, he starts following us, 33 degrees, older dude now. Start following us. He said, well, how do you feel about the possibility of the first black president? My wife looks at him and says, there's more than 9 of them before him. Who told you that? Who told you that? You're not supposed to know that. Did they tell you that? Who the hell does this guy know that? But I told my wife, I said, don't let on that we Moors. You know what I'm saying? That we know that the gig is up. You know what I'm saying? And right, the gig is up. And so then he still following because he's like trying to figure out, like, okay, I got another way to find out if they damn Moors or not. Because he wanted us to tell him, right? So he followed us again. He said, well, you know that the Indians was barbarians. Now that set my wife for it. She was like, right, he took a cold word. The word barbarian is the word Berber, which is Moors. He's trying to tell you that the Indians who was in America were the Moors. He's trying to tell you that was you. I said, it's all right. Let's continue walking. Don't say nothing to him now. So this time we didn't answer him. First time we gave him the clue. Second time we didn't even answer him. We just kept going through the museum. So we go through the museum. Guess what? Everywhere we looked was a little more head on every damn item. On the swords, on the plates, on aprons, everywhere. Go ahead, brother. Yeah.
So you see the image of Christ.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Yorkshire Moors.
That's right.
Yeah.
But all the book tells you.
Yeah. So we started taking pictures, but the damn camera was so loud. Damn. whatever's supposed to be is a secret, but we got enough evidence to convince anybody. But anyway, after that, we went to the library. So I go to the curator of the library. I said, yes, I want all your books on principle. Yes. Okay. So he gets up. He said, give me a few minutes. So he said, I'm getting it for you. I can walk around and look. So we walking around. Next thing I know, he comes running down the hall. Mr. Bay! Mr. Bay! I have all the books. Matter of fact, here, take all the copies of all the books, and next time you come to England, we'll send out a car to come and get you, to bring you here, and you can be here all day, and read and everything.
He said, remember, it's the secret.
That's what he told me. He said, remember, it's the secret. I said, yes, it is. The secret is the bird. And that's what happened. So next time I'm go, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get that joint up. Right? Yes.
It stays despised. I guess people tell us so much. People despised. They put those stuff on things like rice, get on it.
Because that's the origin.
Right.
Well, let's explain. The ancient mystery school of Egypt developed into the Rosicrucians, which developed the Knights Templars, into the Rosicrucians, into the Freemasons. So it came from Saladin, who was a Sufi, which was the so-called Black Arabs who had the ancient mystery school system. And they transferred it to the Knights Templars, who got excommunicated by the Pope because they started having as much money as the damn Vatican. So that's one of the things, because they was going to be able to compete. The Knights Templars goes underground and they create the Rosicrucians. All right, who was formed by Francis Bacon, who you now know is William Shakespeare, who wrote the 46th Psalm in the book of your Bible, where if you count 46 words down, you see the word shake. You count 46 words up, you see the word spirit. All right, he was the 46th person on the council of the Shakespearean Council. He made the 46th person himself. Right, so out of the people from 1609 to 1611, during that 2 years, they had to translate the Bible. All right, so he said on the committee of those who translated the Bible. This is why the Masons to this day put the 133rd Psalm on their altar. Put that, and it has to be a King James Version Bible on their altar, because Psalms, as well as also the Bible itself, was read by King James, who was the grand master of the Lodge of England. He was the grand master of the Lodge of England. And the next person obviously was Francis Bacon, who was William Shakespeare, who was one of the second most powerful people in England at that time, and he was the head of the Rosicrucians, which was another secret society. So that during the time was when the Masons and the Rosicrucians worked together. You can see in the 18th degree of the Masons, the Rosicruce, which is the Rosicrucian degree at the 18th degree in the Rosicrucians. So at one time they worked very close together, but then there was a split in which that occurred, and they started to hate each other because the Rosicrucians wanted the information more out, and the Masons wanted to continue considering the information. So now if you go and look at the Rosicrucian information, you will see groups such as the Anthroposophical Society, founded by Rudolf Steiner, METAPHYSICAL Society, which is the Philosophical Society, Manly P. Hall Society, which is the Philosophical Society. All these societies came out from the Rosicrucians. So they can reveal a whole lot of information. Go read any books by any of these three people, and shoot, you get more out of them books than you would from Masonry. Because Masonry was more so shut in and only wanted to deal with their own, while Rosicrucians said, no, you have to go out and spread the word so people can come in, more so in that way. So that was the split was in between, was method, or the first teacher. Okay? They got mad at METAPHYSICAL because she put so much information in the Isis Veil and the secret doctrine, you know what I'm saying? They was like, this has to go. something's up with her. That's why he had that wavy hair. Yeah. He told him not to, but he did anyway. In other words, see what it was is that he asked King James could he say that he put himself not particularly in that script because that's why he had it coded, but just as one of the translators of the King James version, and King James told him no. So he embedded himself in the story, and in fact he was 46 years old at that time. Mm-hmm. So not only 46 years old, 46, a member out of the 54 committee of the Shakespearean Council, but he was also 4 and 6 is 10, which is symbolic actually to the tree of life, the 10 spirits on the tree of life. Also. So, I mean, it was a whole lot of encoding that he did in order to, get that information out. All right? So now we're talking about the food. Now, let's get into the melanin, because melanin is very important, because next to the breath, that is the most important essence of the physical body. All right? The breath is what holds the melanin on the human body together. All right? It composes. So breath composes the body. All right? When you no longer breathing, you decompose. You get it, right? That's just simple. Once again, breath holds the physical composition together, so that means breath composes you. This is why when you breathe deep, in and out, your emotions are composed. You are calm. You see? When you're dead, you decompose. No breath. So now the molecules, the atoms, everything comes apart. Because the breath is what holds it together. Right? This is why it's important. So if you want to live longer, you learn how to breathe. Because breath gives you longevity. All right? This is a simple thing. So you slow down your breath. Matter of fact, in the Vedic text, it speaks about that you have a certain amount of breaths in which that you are allowed to take in a lifetime. Each one of us. So you slow down the breath, you manipulate the length of time that you stay here. Okay? So melanin is very important because melanin has its own DNA. It's the most important substance in the human body. Carbon atom links to form melanin, which has black hole properties, which is found in space. Black holes are found in space. So that means your melanocytes act like black holes to absorb electromagnetic energy. When you go into the sun gives you vitamin D, right? Which is a hormone in which that helps with what? Hardening of the bones, with condensation, right? The hardening of the teeth, to keep you from getting what? Cavity. All right? All of this is done by the sun. All right? So, in physics, the melanated body has the capability to be a perfect absorber and perfect radiator of all forms of light and energy. Melanin may be viewed as a battery that is partially charged and can always accept an electrical charge. All right? So when the sun and other energy comes in contact with the melanin battery, it increases the charge of the battery to a certain degree. Now, when a battery is alive, the electrical output in charge, and it's alive, it is what? Alkaline. You go and get a fresh pack of battery, right on the battery pack, at the bottom it says AA, AAA, whatever, alkaline. I gave you the food that makes you what? Alkaline. Watermelon, papaya, pineapple, lemon. Come on. Garlic, olive oil. Right, exactly. So all these things make you electrical. These are secondary foods, but it helps with the energetic or the electrical body. All right? Melanin. So, in that battery. Now, the story, not only the melanin battery, but they based the whole story around it, a whole mythology, a whole comic book series. It's called Superman. The whole story is about him getting charged by what? He gets straight for what? He gets X-ray vision for what? He gets straight for what? He able to blow air, make it cold and freeze for what? his whole body is electrified by the same thing that you're supposed to be electrified from. And then they call his name Ka'el. Now, if you're a Moor, you know that one of the names, or one of the 5 names that we have is what? El. Which in Hebrew means God. So he's a living God, and he's getting powered by the living Son. So he's in the image and after the likeness of what? The God who art in heaven.
So what's kryptonite?
Kryptonite. Let's get to that in here. All right. So, kryptonite is everything I just made mention of, the GMO food. You get it? All right. The water, which that is non-alkaline, which is acidic. Anything that's acidic, fluoride that comes from the pineal gland. You see? These are all kryptonite. Kryptonite is just a composite image of a rock, which is about to a mineral. Which fluoride is what? It's greenish. Bluish greenish. You ever seen fluoride? It's bluish green, isn't it? Yeah. Huh? Yeah. And it's a what? Mineral, isn't it? And what happens when this mineral gets into your body? It calcifies your pineal gland. Maybe you see it. So it takes away your strength. It takes away your intelligence. It takes away your perception, being able to communicate with the ancestors. It takes away your ability to dream. You see that? So fluoride is one of the main components of what they're talking about. Right, it's in your toothpaste, it's in everything. So fluoride is the kryptonite that they're referring to. But it makes your pineal gland calcify. Now, if you get the book African Origin Biological Psychology by Dr. Richard, Dr. Richard King, MD, he makes mention of the fact that 5 to 15% Africans have calcified pineal glands. 20 to 35% Asians have calcified pineal glands. But 60 to 80% Europeans have calcified pineal glands. So they have the highest calcification. And you wonder why you see the so-called white supremacy that is taking place on the planet, because they have the most calcification of the pineal gland, which means they have the hardest time sealing. Melanin is the ability, melanin is what gives you the ability to feel. That's why it's called your soul. So melanin is the physical counterpart to the spiritual soul. Once again, melanin is the physical counterpart to the spiritual soul. It is what gives you the ability to commune with your ancestors, is your melanin. Okay? And what produces melanin in your body? Your pineal gland. Your pineal gland excretes melanin. And 2 precursors called melatonin and serotonin. Melatonin is produced at the times of 11 p.m. at night to 7 a.m. in the morning, and serotonin is produced from 7 a.m. in the morning to 11 p.m. at night. Okay? Then you also have some other elements, which is called phenolene and DMT. This is the psychedelic chemicals now that's being produced. This is what gives you the ability to do and have your vision, to travel out of the body, all right, to astral project, the soul travel, to commune with the ancestors, right? And this comes by way of you learning how to breathe. The more you slow down your breath, the more your body is relaxed, the more the DMT can be produced by the pineal gland. In order to give you these abilities, in order to find out what's going on, because they know more than you do in the physical body. Because their range of the timeline is much more fast. All right? So, Superman, all right, he's a living solar battery. Now, check this out. This is what Wikipedia says about Superman. Now, see how this correlates to you. Superman's power relies on his cells' ability to absorb and metabolize solar energy from the local stars like the Earth's sun. Damn, what did I just finish reading about Melanie? What do melanin do? It absorbs energy and light. All right? It goes on. It says his kryptonic body is a living solar battery that absorbs solar energy and converts them to fuel for his powers. His cells will also store yellow sun energy so that he can use his powers under objects at night in dark places and in space. And the more yellow sun rays Superman absorbs, the stronger he gets, just like the Incredible Hulk. The angrier he gets, the stronger he gets. All right? But look at the Hulk. You'll see sometimes he's green, sometimes he's brown. All right? So here it says, now remember, him being brown and him being green, that's just like us back in the day. We actually was green at one time too, more of a greenish hue. Now how you know this? Because babies comes out, you look on the small of their back, you can see a green tint on them, right at the area of right above the behind, and right on the small of the back is a green tint. Their whole body at one time used to be this. Our whole body at one time used to be that color. That's when we have more magnesium being produced in our body. Right now, as we get older, as we get in the age, by the time we are 4 or 5, magnesium is no longer being produced in the body. Okay? But if more magnesium was produced in the body, would be a greenish hue. You'll see Esther in the Bible spoke of as having green skin. You see all set as being green. You see Krishna as being bluish. So you'll see all these so-called people in these various scriptures as having a color other than just brownish, right, or dark hue. Now understand what is going on. The difference between chlorophyll base and melanin base is one magnesium molecule. That's it. That's it. So that means now, being that we brown, iron is at the center of the cell. And iron, what happens when water hit iron? It rusts. So that's why you have a rust color. When magnesium was more at the cells, then you had a greenish color because copper was more in harmony with the magnesium, which would give you what? A greenish shade. This is just science. All right, so same thing it's talking about is that Superman, his healing factor, it says Superman is shown to possess remarkable recuperative powers that allow him to quickly heal from wounds and make him immune to all forms of human or earthly diseases, illnesses, viruses, and toxins. Now that correlates that if you was able to go into the sun like you need to, because understand that we're supposed to be in the sun for 1 to 3 hours a day, melanated people, in order to get enough vitamin D that we need. Now, you have 7 major chakras. Some have 9, some will develop 12. But 7 is the major chakra that most people deal with. Because in the book of Revelations, it's talking about the 7 stars. By the time you get to Revelation, the 12th chapter, it goes to 12 stars. But the 7 is spoken of as your endocrine gland. So your pineal gland, which here at the top of the head symbolizes the crown chakra, or the top of the head. The pituitary gland is here, right in between the eyebrows. All right? Your thyroid gland is here, located right above the hollow area of the throat. Your thyroid gland is about 1 inch below the hollow area of the throat. All right? Your solar plexus, which is your pancreas, and your spleen is right here at the center. All right? Your navel, which is your digestive system, also symbolizes the storage place in your lower dantian. All right? About 1 inch right below it. All right? Then you have the genitals, in which that symbolizes your life principle. So these are the 7 major endocrine glands in your body. All right? So each one is your chakra system. Your chakra is your charging component of your auric field. All right? When more energy comes into your auric field, it enlightens your chakra system and your endocrine gland. Your endocrine gland is what produces hormones in your body, so it produces hormonal balance. Without vitamin D, your melanin and your hormones are thrown off balance. Now, what cleanses your melanin is vitamin B2, B6, and B12. That's what cleanses your melanin. So if you're not getting enough B complex throughout the day, then your melanin is also suffering. Okay? So you need D, B12, B6, B2, particularly on an everyday basis. All right? And magnesium. These are the ones in which that helps with the manufacturing of these gifts that we're talking about in which that Superman has. You also have these same gifts. Understand what we're talking about. We just finished talking about Stemio Toko. All right? We just finished talking about Simon Kabongo. All right? These are people who lived. Anybody who was born before 1984? Okay. So the majority of everybody here was born before 1984. What that means is that you existed when Simeon Toko walked this planet. So if we talk about the Jesus from 2,000 years ago, we got a Jesus in just 1984 who walked this planet, who's able to do things beyond Jesus. Okay? And remember, there's nothing wrong with that because you said greater things you would do. Remember? All right, so let's not get spooky. How my people raised though, I talk about Jesus. But I'm just saying that this dude did some phenomenal things, and we all existed at the time he walked this planet. And just hearing about him now. So you know how messed up it is about the Bible. They ain't even have nothing in there, did they? And you wonder why it took 100, 200 years for the people to have to write that stuff down. Remember, you can't worry about this nigga in Jesus. All right, so melanin may be viewed as a battery that is partially charged and always accept electrical charge. So when sunlight or other energies come in contact with the melanin, the battery increases the charge of the battery to a certain degree. When the energy is captured, the battery has more energy to use in the body. This means that the human beings can charge up their melanin processes the unique ability to absorb various energy sources and convert them and absorb energies into reusable energy. This includes mediums such as music vibrations, sound waves, sun rays, sun heat, light rays, etc. Check this out. A scientist by the name of Dr. Frank Boers, his theory states that matter is shaped and structured by light. These molecular melanin combinations eat light in order to maintain, expand, and evolve matter. The more highly evolved a species, the more complex its biological capacity is to use light. So as you see, you really have to worry about GMO food if you get your ass in the class. That's the problem, is that we don't get enough sunlight. And so now GMO food can insert certain genes in which that we correspond to. But if you have the proper amount of vitamin D, then that solidifies your structure. All right? That solidifies your foundation, which is your skeleton system. Remember, blood is manufactured from what? Your bone marrow. Y'all heard that before? What blood is manufactured at? From your bone rate, and your stomach, and your bone marrow. All right? So, if vitamin D is used to solidify your bones, then what is it doing to your blood? Which means it's doing something to your genes, it's doing something to your DNA. What's it doing? What is this hormone doing for you? Exactly. It's a living molecule. All right. So this is one of the things that he's talking about because he says your melanin eats light in order to maintain, expand, and evolve matter. So if your physical body is matter and light is utilized and you're able to absorb it, that means what you're doing is lifting the vibration of this material body. That means nothing that they have physically can harm you. So they're doing all these chemtrails, they're doing all the GMO food, they put the fluoride in the water, all that will not matter once you vibrate to a high enough level. All right? And the sun is just a tool in order to get you there. Once you turn on your own inner light, you don't need that sun out there anymore. So that's a hologram. That is just used in order to send rays to you so that you can understand the idea of how to shine bright. You think the Christians made up this song, this is a lot of my logo, let it shine for nothing? Oh, you don't remember that one? It's been that long? Anybody who needs to pray, come on out. All right, in the book Science and Melanin, Dispelling the Myth by Tim Owen Moore, he states that in the third dimension, melanin acts as a semiconductor to transform energy. As we just said, then in the third dimension, melanin acts as a semiconductor to transform energy. So if you are able to take melanin to a fourth dimensional state, what will it do? It will become a conductor, no longer semi. But what is a semi? What is a semi-automatic? And what is an automatic? Somebody explain that to me. Right. Well, automatic is what? Everybody got that? All right. So in the third dimension, this is what we appear that we in. Melanin acts as a semiconductor to transform energy. So that means you have to take it up a notch to the fourth dimensional state and eventually to the fifth dimensional state. So the fifth dimension is light or energy. Right? Fourth dimension is length, width, and height and depth. The third dimension is length, width, and height. Okay? The sixth dimension is gravity. I ain't going on. So you have to understand the words that we talk about in quantum physics. Okay? So in the third dimension, melanin is a semiconductor to transform energy. Now, as a semiconductor, melanin has an energy gap. The absorption of energy is required before electrons. Listen to what I'm saying. The absorption of energy is required before electrons can jump into the conductive state and make melanin conductive. So you need to know how to absorb enough energy so you can get out the third dimensional apparent reality into the fourth. Because all of this is right here with you. You're not stuck in the fourth in the third dimension. Because actually you're a fourth dimensional being held down by third dimensional being. Just the Albion, the European, he's a third dimensional being. You are a fourth dimensional being. How you know this? Because by the curl pattern of your hair. Your hair curls up into a 9 or into what is called the Ohm symbol. All right? Anybody remember the old TVs for the remote controls? Anybody? Okay, that's the only one? Okay. All right. So remember, on the TV, you have channel 2 to channel 13, right? That was VHF, which is very high frequency. Now, go to channel U, it went to 14 to 83. That was cable before we had the cable, y'all. Y'all remember that? Okay, that was our cable. Okay. Now, to get channel 2 to channel 13, what antennas did we have? Gravity antennas, which was straight, just like the European hair. He had straight hair antennas, right? They also very high frequency. Now, to get the channel from 14 to channel 83, what antenna did you have? The Ohm antenna. Did y'all catch that? I don't think y'all caught that. The Ohm antenna. Why was it called the Ohm antenna? Because you think that the Buddhist monks chant Om for no reason? Or do they have an agenda? Do they have an agenda for chanting Om? What about the Shaolin monks? The Tibetan monks? What do you think of monks? What do you think they're chanting Om for? Because they're trying to get to the fourth dimension. Well, the fourth dimension is the Om antenna, which is curl pattern like your hair. So you already reached where they're trying to come to. Because oftentimes the Asian, just like the European, has straight hair, just like the rabbit antenna. But they have the chance only to tap into the frequency that you already tapped in naturally. This is why everybody envy you. So you're the god for this goddamn planet. You're already a fourth dimensional being. You're supposed to be going to the fifth dimension. Hold on. You remember the group called Fifth Dimension, Marilyn McCool? 1969? I was born that year. And if I'm not mistaken, that was the most popular damn song that whole year. Internationally, not just nationally. The name of the song was called what? Age of Aquarius. Age of Aquarius. The fifth dimension. Why she called a group the fifth dimension? Because you know some shit that we just coming up to knowledge right now. So I would love to sit down with Marilyn McCool and say, what the hell was that, man? So that was like 45-some odd years ago when y'all was already dropping this information. You, Earth, Wind, Fire, something's going on with y'all. You know what I'm saying? I got to know who was tapping all into this information. We know where hitting this from. So their group is called the Fifth Dimension. So guess what? We're supposed to be going to the Fifth Dimension. Well, guess what? That's going to produce the GMO food, the chemtrails, the heart system, everything to stop you from going to the fifth dimension. But they don't want you to tap into energy, into the light. They want to keep you at a low frequency. And they say the frequency is TV. In 2008, right? Obama changed from analog to digital. Remember that? Right. So they changed the frequency. Why did they change the frequency? Why did they change the frequency? Because they tried to keep us in a computerized thought process. Right. In your body, into a robotic process. Everything they want, robotic. Right? This is what they want. They want a robotic. They don't want a chaos. All right? They don't want a chaos. Because chaos is the dance like you sing with the crow. That's chaotic dance. Now you see a lot more of the robotic style of dance. No coincidence. But they changed the frequency. They changed the frequency from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. All right? They changed it from 432, which is natural music, to 440 hertz. So now white boys and girls, they can dance. He's like, oh shit, yo, they got my how did that happen? Oh, they changed the frequency of the music. Put on there 432 hertz and watch it go back to they can get that shit. Don't believe me, try that shit. Try it. Put on 432 hertz music and watch what happens. They go back to the Frankenstein movement. The carton. All right, and go back to that quick. All right, so here, at low frequency, the conductivity of melanin is small, but at ultra high frequency, which is UHF, melanin is a superconductor. Uh-oh. So at UHF, remember now, that was the channel for the O. It's called UHF. Remember, theirs was VHF, yours is UHF. So it says at that level, ultraviolet light is UHF. Now, what is ultraviolet light? That is called black light. Remember in the 70s, everybody had their black light? Yeah. Right. Uh-oh. Put some things together for you? All right, so when you use the ultraviolet light, which is the purple light or black light, as they refer to it, you begin to heal. Just like Superman had that capability of healing. But so all of a sudden, after the 70s, they say, oh, you shouldn't be using the black light. All of this, so this and that. That light was healing us. So that was based on the UHF frequency, in which that we were already naturally resonating with. So go back out and get your black light show. All right. you don't believe me, get a book called The Ankh, The African Origin of Electromagnetism by New Ankh Alim. All right, get that book. All right, in the book, he says, as a semiconductor, melanin has an energy gap. The absorption of energy is required before electrons can jump into the conduction band and make melanin conductive. An increase in conductivity increases the sensitivity of melanin to the electromagnetic world of the etheric beings, astral projection, and spiritual entities. At low frequencies, the conductivity of melanin is small. But at ultra high frequency, UHF, melanin is a superconductor. Melanin is a superconductor. It says maximum current flows over the skin due to the skin effects at melanin's UHF resonant frequency. So melanin is the most important substance in the human body. All right. So according to the Science of Blackness by Hotep IMN, he states melanin is dark to allow the chemical structure it's black to allow the chemical structure to obtain, retain, store, and generate light and store energy once it contacts the molecule. This light and sound energy permits the African to a high level of perception and gives him the ability to communicate with the dead and the spiritual world and the outer space cosmos. Melanin refines the nervous system in such a way that the messages from the brain reaches other areas of the body more rapidly than original people. Right? That's what he's talking about. Now, amazing is that in the book, the own book, people ask about where's heaven. So you can say, well, they want to say heaven is up there. All right? Well, up there where? Well, in the book, he answers the question. Yes, heaven is up there. At least what you're talking about is one of the seven heavens, but the place where our ancestors go first before they escape Earth velocity is to the ionosphere. That is the astral plane that you go to when actually you go to sleep at night and you go out of your body. And you're able to see with these two physical eyes closed, but you're able to see somewhere inside your head with another eye. That's why it's called the third eye, because you are observing yourself on another plane of existence. That's obviously is not this plane. Where it takes place at. It takes place in the ionosphere. No coincidence that the HAARP system shoots its beams up into the ionosphere to disrupt the communication. So what communication are they attempting to disrupt? You and your ancestors, your connection. So they use the HAARP system to do that. All right, that's what's going on, right? Everything to disrupt internally and externally what goes on with you and your connection to the ancestors. Because your ancestors also is part of you. Your 7 generations on your mother's side, 7 generations on your father's side, a concentration of all 14 of them generations. Manifested in this physical form right here, right now.
Does that have anything to do with like sleep paralysis?
Well, sleep paralysis, your soul comes out your body at night, and so actually your physical body awoke before your soul entered back into your body. So that's sleep paralysis, or what Hematophysics calls the witches riding the back. You can be laying on your back, but they don't go riding. But that's called sleep paralysis. So your soul is out still before, and your body woke up before the soul came back into your body. Right. Right.